Familiar. I see a lot of familiar faces on here, so that is great. Again, thank you so much for spending time to educate yourself, to tuning in again to this Wednesday, and we have a lot to cover today. So I guess just right before we get started, just a few housekeeping things. This is our schedule that we're on, so we're about halfway through our course. So today we're going to talk about maximizing your online presence. And then we have 4 more weeks in November, every Wednesday at 9 o'clock. So next week, we're going to be talking about business plans. On the 10th, we're going to be talking about blogging. The 17th, social media planning. And then on the 24th, we're going to work through some SMART goals and setting goals. And so I would really encourage you, come to what you can. We'd love to have you. And even if you can only make part of it, or we'd love anything you can learn is going to benefit your business. So I did want to show you that really quick. And today, before we get started, all of the information that we're going over and so much more is on our Initiate tool that is provided through Native 360. And so if you're not taking advantage of that tool yet, I highly recommend you do so. To get onto the Initiate tools, all you have to do is go to native360.org. You click on small business tools and log on to Initiate. Now in Initiate, it's a simple login process, just your name, your email address. You can be in just a few minutes. And there are so many resources for you when it comes to money, marketing, management, just abundance of tools. And so today we're going to be talking a guide to take your business online. That's the main one that we're going to be coming off of today. And so while I have compiled this into the notes that we're going to be sharing, there is so many resources on this website. You'll see some of the same images that I'm using in our example today. So I would encourage you to create a login for Initiate. It's completely free through Native 360 and take advantage of all the tools that they have to offer. All right. So today we're going to be talking about taking your business online, maximizing your online presence. Last week we talked about social media, and while they go hand in hand, they are very different. And so we're going to go ahead and dive in today. I guess before we start, are there any initial questions, concerns, big aha moments, anything before we get started? All right, then we're going to go ahead and dive right in here just a second. And I have included the notes into the chat box over here. I'm going to attach them one more time. So they'll be on the screen, but feel free to download these and go through them again at a later time. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my notes here. All right. We'll try to get through this information fairly quickly and leave about 10 minutes at the end for questions. But if you have questions while we're going through this, feel free to enter in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask any questions. We'd love to have this conversation. So today, the topic that we're going to go over is maximizing your online presence. Now, I would say last year more than ever, as we're all going through and readjusting our businesses due to COVID, we learned the importance of having an online presence. I am the owner and brand developer of a marketing agency here in Grand Island, Nebraska. And our number one question last year was, how do I get my business online? How do I make money online? How do I sell online? What's the best way for me to ship online? Because as soon as our doors got shut, we had to figure it out. And a lot of clients of ours did not have a strategy in place. And so they were really panicking when we had to go online. And so I would highly, highly recommend to take the time in your off season, or when you're a little bit slower, even chipping away a little bit every week on your online presence, so that if there's ever a time that you have to go remotely online, you're not panicked and stressed. And so that's, I guess, if there's one thing we learned from COVID, is the more proactive you can be, the less stressed you're going to be in the moment. So let's just go through this together. So number one, an online presence. So now is a great time to review your operations and determine how to reach more customers remotely. Whether you have an existing website or not, there are steps you can take to allow people to engage with you and purchase without stepping foot inside your establishment. How many of you right now shop online at least to some degree, right? So, as much as we love the face to face, there's still a huge advantage of being able to shop online, whether it's time, convenience, selection, whatever it is, there is convenience in shopping online. And while I'm very glad that the Shop Local campaign is really taking traction, shopping local online is even a hybrid option that allows consumers to shop local but still have the convenience of shopping online. So that's something that we're going to talk about today. And there are several ways to be able to offer services online. So, number one, there's a couple of simple ways to take your business digital. Step one is to review your current platform. If you're already using Facebook or Instagram for your business, maybe you already have a point of sale system such as Square, look into their options for promoting and selling through their platforms. So if you already have a very active Facebook following, maybe you have a lot of engagement on there, Facebook has developed platforms such as Marketplace and Sale where you can sell to your Facebook customers directly through the platform you already have. If you're using something like Instagram, maybe you're using your Squarespace system. There's a lot of ways to do that. Here in a little bit, we're going to talk about Etsy and eBay. Those are other great platforms. So I would say if you already have a platform that's working well for you, that may be a great option. So while your website is one way, if you already have a lot of engagement and followers, go ahead and use that platform as well. You don't have to try to transition all of those current customers to a new platform. Step two, keep it simple. When it comes to highlighting your offerings, you don't have to go overboard. Start with a few of your best selling products that you will be able to ship easily or offer to go. As you lay out your page, it's best to make it easy for people to see what you have in a simple ordering process. So this is something that we talk about a lot because let's say that in your store you have 100 different items that you sell. It's a lot of work to take all 100 items, to put them online, to make sure that their descriptions are correct, to take photos of them, everything like that. So maybe start small. Start with your top 3 sellers or start with one item and start with that. It's much better to have one item online with a full description, with beautiful photos, with an inventory tracking system that you know you can ship, that you know the price of the shipping, and start small and then build from there. It's often overwhelming if day one you say, I need to have all 100 items online. That's typically not realistic unless you really have either a full-time person or maybe an extended period of time dedicated to just getting your inventory online. Now, if your inventory is always changing, this can present more of a challenge. So that's again why selecting a few items, maybe featured items, is one way to do it without having to offer every single thing. Once you review your current platforms and you keep it simple, you're going to need to update your customers. People will need to know that you offer online ordering. So if you have a website or a social media profile, make sure that you promote it there. If you have an existing customer link, you could email them a link to your page. Other resource would be a Google My Business and options to highlight specific hours for offerings such as delivery or carry out. So that's something that we really want to talk about because let's say that you do put the work in and you do create this online store. You really have to let people know that it's available and you have to let them know over and over. Typically, someone has to see something 7 times before it sits in their brain. And so just telling them one time on a Facebook post, by the way, you can order pizza online, or don't forget you can order online or make a reservation online. Doing that one time is not going to be sufficient marketing. So you really need to make sure that you're putting out there often and you're removing any friction from that sales funnel. So one way to remove friction would be simply to put the link right there. So rather than them having to find you, they can just simply click on that link. And maybe sharing that link in almost every post. So let's say that you're posting about your store and how great your store is. It doesn't hurt in the description to say, hey, you can't make it in, visit our virtual store, visit our online store, and here's the link. So one thing we always talk about is removing sales friction. So you need to remove that sales friction from your online store as well. And sharing the link is one very simple way to do that. All right, let's go on to our next point. Getting started with online selling. Start selling and experiment to see what works best for your business and your products. Now, you may want to look at what other companies are doing, other similar size companies or similar industries. Oftentimes, I always recommend looking at a company that's maybe 3 to 4 hours away, even on the other side of the country. So, let's say that you're a coffee shop. I wouldn't recommend looking exactly what the coffee shop is doing next door and copying them. But if you're in Grand Island, maybe find a coffee shop that's in Manhattan, Kansas. I always compare Grand Island and Manhattan, Kansas. Even though they're a college town, we're about the same size and we're growing at about the same rate. And so finding a town that's about the same size and maybe a shop that's about the same size and see what they're doing. Then you're not direct competition. And while you never want to copy them exactly, you can always use some ideas from multiple places that you do. So start small and experiment, see what they're doing and seeing if it's getting a lot of traction. See if their online store or online order is easy to use. And if it is, what do you like and not like about it? You're always going to want to be mindful of fees and any MAP agreements. MAP stands for minimum approved price. And so if there is a company that sets a minimum price, maybe that this brand of coffee is not allowed to sell for under $8, don't advertise it as $6, come in and get your coffee for this one-time sale. Because when you're putting it online, you're really putting it out to everyone. And your distributors, your agents, things like that, they may be on your site as well. So just make sure that everything that you put online is going with all the agreements that you have signed. If your customer base is enthusiastic about your product on Marketplace and social media, consider building your own e-commerce site to sell directly. So I would recommend, if you don't currently have an e-commerce website, again, starting small, starting on a Facebook page, starting on a Squarespace page, starting on a platform that's already set up for selling, because they make it easy. Once you gain that traction, and let's say that all of a sudden now your online sales are becoming a significant part of your business, maybe 20% of your business or 30% of your business. Now might be the time to upgrade your website and put that point of sale system integrated into your site. We always talk about where your percentage of revenue is coming from versus your time. So let's say that you're spending 25% of your time on managing your online store, but only 2% of your revenue is coming from that store. That may be something that you look at and you decide, for 25% of my time, getting 2% of my revenue isn't a good use of that time. But once your time, and there's always going to be a little bit of a curve, but let's say all of a sudden it's 20% of your revenue, 25% of your revenue, 30% of your revenue. Once that starts getting traction, that's when you may decide it's worth adjusting a little bit more of your time. So those two numbers, while they might not always work exactly hand in hand, they should work a little bit. I know we were helping a small business who was selling books online. She has a bookstore and she's selling books online. And she put every single used book in her store online. She had over 10,000 used books on her website. And then we asked, how much time does that take you? And she says, it takes me a couple hours every single day, probably 2 to 3 to 4 hours every day to scan the books and put them online. And we said, what percentage of your sales is based off selling books online? And she said, probably 1 to 2%. And so you think, oh, well, that's great for those 1 to 2% that want to buy the books online. And she said, typically, when people do buy the books online, there's still local people who buy online, but they still want to come in and pick up the book to save on shipping. And so those are people that are already coming to your store. And so that little bit of convenience for those few people was really draining most of her time. So again, those are just the conversations that I want to have openly and get real about some of those conversations, because we want to make sure that our online sale makes sense. I don't want to sound like I'm discouraging you from online selling, because that's not what I'm doing, but we just really have to be smart about it. All right. I guess, are there any questions before we start going into social media selling? Anything new from here? All right.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned e-commerce sites.
Yes.
What are some, do you have like a list of some good like site builder e-commerce sites?
Yeah, we sure can. And we can go through that a little bit. I mean, I would always recommend when you're selling online, inventory is something that you have to be careful of, because let's say that you have 5 items in your store and you have them listed online. And let's say that you sell 4 online and then 2 people come in and buy it. That's when you can really get into trouble. And so when you're selling online, you really have to be careful of your inventory. And so if you're already using a point of sale system like Square, if you're using Clover, if you're using already a point of sale system, maybe a QuickBooks system, something like that, I would first recommend maybe looking at creating a cohesive online store that's already working with your point of sale system. Because if you can develop that, then let's say you're using Square as your register and you're using a Squarespace site and they speak to each other, then when something sells online, it's automatically going to do the inventory. Or if you sell something in the store, it's automatically going to adjust your inventory online. And so that's one way I'd recommend doing it, just because if you sell them online, you want that, or if you sell something in your store, you want that inventory to change online. You're going to start hurting your brand if all of a sudden someone orders something online and then you go to get it off the shelf and it's gone. And then you have to reach out to that client and say, hey, our inventory was off. That's really where it can hurt you. So one suggestion would be, you're always going to want to look into fees and into fine print, because sometimes on some of those, it seems really inexpensive. And then as you add more and more things, it can be a lot more expensive than you realize. But my first suggestion would be looking at the point of sale system that you're using and see if they offer a great online sales tool as well. Now, sometimes Squarespace, you may not have to use a Squarespace website, but they may have a plugin that would integrate into your current website, but it would still be using their same back end. And so that's something that I would recommend, just to keep that inventory piece clean. If you're using something completely separate, that's just going to put a little bit more work on you, that when you sell something in store, you may have to upload that inventory online. And just kind of think if that's another step that you're going to want to have to take after every single sale, or trust that your employees are going to do that. Does that answer that question?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, we use a platform in-house called Duda, D-U-D-A. Now we're not tracking inventory, we're just taking online sales. And so we're not necessarily concerned about inventory as much, but we use a site called Duda for our online platform, and where you can list items, you can figure out shipping and everything like that. So there's a lot of different ones out there. Oftentimes one of the big features is how many items you're having. So they might start out really inexpensive if you have less than 30 items. But if you're really someone that's going to be having hundreds of items, that's when that price can go up very fast. And so I would just really think of, what's kind of your end goal. If your goal is to have 250 items online, I would check pricing for what that's going to be across a couple of different platforms, because you'd hate to have 100 items listed and then as soon as you go to 101, you can't afford it anymore, because then all that work you'd have to redo on another platform. So really look at those prices kind of long term and build from there.
Hey, Julie.
Yes.
One thing that I noticed with online ordering, especially like in the food service business, I go and get coffee at Starbucks, and anyway, they can order on their app. And when I walk in, there's generally, I kid you not, probably 20 to 40 people in the lobby waiting for their order that they had placed.
Yeah.
And I can walk in and get my coffee and walk out, and everybody is like wondering, how you did it. But there's an example, I think, of that, just making sure if, the people are ordering online, especially in the food service business, that you're not taking more orders than your staff can actually handle.
We had that conversation with a new coffee shop here in Grand Island, and some orders, like for food that you order online, one thing that's really important is sometimes some platforms will stagger the pickup time. So let's say that the first coffee that's ordered, it will say that it's ready in 5 to 8 minutes. But then if another order comes in a minute later, it might delay that one for 8 to 10 minutes. And then if another order comes in, it might say that coffee's ready for 8 to 10 to 12 minutes. And that's important because let's say that you get 20 orders at once within a 3-minute period, and they all say 5 to 8 minutes. That's not realistic, especially on a small business. And so those are some of the small things, really thinking through the logistics of, if I get 3 orders in a minute, do they all have the same pickup time, or can I set the online ordering to automatically delay so that within a time period it automatically tells that person that they're longer? Because that's really, online ordering is supposed to be convenient. And oftentimes, if a system is not set up like that, if 20 orders can come in within 5 minutes and they all say that they're going to be ready in 5 minutes, that's when those customers, they don't realize that. So they come to pick up their coffee and they're frustrated because they ordered online and it said 5 to 8 minutes. And so that's when it really comes into that branding and making sure. I know a new Chipotle opened here in Grand Island, and they actually built 2 separate kitchens almost, or 2 separate prep areas. And one was just for their online ordering and one was for walk-in traffic, because their online orders, they didn't want that to take away. So they almost had different staff for each one. And so those are just things to think through. While it's convenient for your customers, you need to make sure that it works with your business model. All right. I hope that helped, and we can sure talk about that more here at the end as well. And there are so many. The other thing I'd like to, when we talk about being aware of fees, oftentimes there are discounts for kind of like the initial, like the first year is this price, or the first 3 months are this price. And again, I would just think long term. And okay, maybe the first year is only $99, but what is it after that? Because again, once you put in all that work to load all that inventory, and then let's say on year 2, the price jumps up by 10 times, they know that it's going to hurt a little bit for you to have to take everything down and start fresh. And so just really, if you can get someone on the phone, walk through, oftentimes they're happy to do like a demo with you to show you the features and ask those hard questions of, I understand this is an introductory price, but what is my price going to be year 2 or year 3 or year 4? And those are some of the questions that often aren't, as their sales point, but are important questions to ask. All right, let's jump in here a little bit. Next, we're going to talk about maximizing your online presence, social media selling. So social media is a perfect space to connect with customers. Social media users are often more relaxed and receptive, and brands can build more name recognition and trust with their followers. You can buy ads on social media for your web store, and you can sell directly through social media platforms. So again, Facebook and Instagram both have ways to sell online. And I would recommend this if you already have a large following on one of these platforms and a lot of engagements. Now, if you're already talking to people, if you're already having those conversations, if people are already sending you messages, then they're used to finding you on Facebook or Instagram, and this may be a great platform. So this just tells you a little bit. So on Facebook, if you already have a Facebook business page, you need to make sure it's not a personal page. You need to have followers and not friends. That's one way we can determine if it's a business page versus a personal page. You can go to your shop tab and you can make a commerce manager. There you'll be guided through the process of setting up your store and adding products. You can send customers to your website for a checkout process or have Facebook handle that too. Some e-commerce platforms, here are a few examples: 3D Cart, Shopify, BigCommerce, have built-in features to integrate with Facebook. These integrations allow you to coordinate inventory, pricing, and record keeping into one system. The nice thing about Facebook and Instagram, that I would say especially Facebook, is it's very user-friendly. They will walk you through step by step how to do it. It's very simple terms. There's a lot of information buttons and help buttons. So if you're not very computer savvy, this would be I would say a simpler step-by-step way to do that. Now, Instagram is a rich visual platform, notorious for creating lifestyle envy in its users. making it an excellent fit for lifestyle or fashion brands. You can set up a customizable storefront on Instagram and use shopping tags to highlight your products in the feed. Customers can check out through the app using Facebook Pay or can direct them to another site for checkout. If you have linked your Facebook business account with your Facebook page, you can also sync products between Instagram and Facebook and allow product tag images to appear on Facebook as well. Because Facebook bought Instagram, they do work pretty seamless together on this app. I remember last week when we were talking a little bit about choosing a platform, we really talked about how Instagram is going to be more of a visual platform. So if you're selling handmade jewelry, if you're selling scarves, makeup items, things like that, where pictures are very prevalent, Instagram may be a great platform. Instagram is also going to have a little bit younger of a demographic, probably people 30, maybe 18 to 35. So if that's your target market and if your brand is visual, Instagram may be a great place for you. Now, if you're an accounting office, or maybe you're a tire repair shop, or something that's not quite as visually entertaining, Instagram you may get lost in the shuffle because you don't have those great images. And so that's where something maybe Facebook, which is not as image driven, may be a better platform. Facebook also has a slightly older demographic, more of that 30 to 65 age. So if that's your target market, Facebook may be the perfect place for you. All right. Now, these are some marketplace sites. So we're going to talk a little bit about eBay and Pinterest. So just like a brick and mortar store, an online marketplace is a location where customers find products from many small sellers gather to offer a variety of merchandise. Some full-time retailers use these websites as a hub to sell through several marketplaces. Others use their marketplace locations to earn supplemental income. So one of them is going to be selling on eBay. eBay is well known for its auctions, but the site also offers storefronts where you can list products and retail sales with a buy it now pricing. The store building options that is very limited, but real power in eBay's marketplace. Your product will show up in searches on a site that gets millions of hits every day. So when we talk about eBay, we often think about things that people who go to eBay are often in some target market. So it's people that are often wanting something that's unique, hard to find. I read a study talking about car parts on eBay and how many people go to buy motorcycle parts, car parts, something very specific that they may not be able to walk into a store and find. So also think eBay is great for antique toys, for antiques in general, for vintage things, for one-of-a-kind things. So if your store is selling things that are kind of that hard to find, it's almost a treasure, eBay may be a great place to do that. And if you don't want to do the auction side, you may be able to set up a buy it now store and run it more like a store. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about, there are pros and cons to using either Etsy or eBay. Now, the con is there are a lot of stores on there. So you are going to have to position yourself and using tags and keywords and descriptions so that people can find exactly what they're looking for. If you have a specific motorcycle part, you're going to want to label the description as detailed as you can. So if someone's looking for that specific part, they can find it. Now, you're not just going to want to list it as motorcycle part because there are going to be so many that you're never going to be able to be found. So the con is there's a lot of things on there. So you need to be very specific with your details. The pro is there are thousands and thousands of people going to that site every single day. And so you do not have to spend your time building up that customer base because it's already there. You just have to be specific so that people can find you. So that's kind of the pros and cons. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about Etsy here. So Etsy is for makers. So if you're a maker who creates unique objects or is selling specialized or vintage items, Etsy is the perfect marketplace for you. People can come to the site specifically to find handmade, one-of-a-kind items, as well as art and craft supplies. The platform charges high seller fees, so you want to begin building your client base on Etsy before eventually developing your own site and directing clients to shop there. So between the two, I would say, and I don't have the statistics right in front of me, but eBay is primarily, I would say, men are primarily shopping on eBay. Often for those hard to find things that they may typically find at an auction, at an estate sale, at a junkyard, at a toy collecting convention, a toy train collecting convention. I always find it as eBay something where if you want to find a treasure. And I would say, you know, generally speaking, it's probably targeted more towards men, even in just the layout of the site and the marketing that they do. Where Etsy, on the other side, I would say generally is targeted more towards women. It's for women who are maybe tend to shop at a craft fair, at a flea market, at a antique shop, and they're looking more for those one-of-a-kind pieces. I have shopped on Etsy to get wedding gifts or to get baby shower gifts, things again that are a little bit more personalized and more crafty. And so again, if you have something on that you hand make or that is one of a kind, on Etsy, there's a lot of ways that they have built it in. Let's say that I can make signs and they're customized. Etsy has already made the system where someone can order a sign, they can select the size, they can type in the name that they want painted on the side, they can select what color paint they want, what kind of finish they want, and then check out. So Etsy has already created that checkout where you can customize items. So if you're selling something that's customized, that platform has already been built for you, which may be easier than building a custom website that has all of those features in it. Now, the downside again is either eBay or Etsy, they take a percentage of your sale and they take a listing fee. So you just want to make sure that you're either pricing yourself or again, have a low enough volume that that's okay. And then once you get to that point where you have followers and you have people, you may want to transition those to your own website so that you don't have to worry about those fees. But it is a great way to build that following. Are there any questions over eBay or Etsy or Facebook or Instagram? Does anyone right now shop on eBay or Etsy on a regular basis? Okay. I don't often, but I got married about 3.5 years ago and it was great. You could type in custom groom gift and it gave you all these ideas. You could type in, you know, father of the bride gift and it gave you all these ideas and you could customize them and they were they looked handmade and so I don't use it often. It's not my go-to, but it is a great resource. And those are vendors that I would not have found if I was just searching online because I didn't really even know what I was looking for. I was just looking for ideas. So I wasn't typing in, like I bought my future mother-in-law a like handkerchief with a saying sewn on it. And I got that idea from Etsy because I typed in mother-in-law gifts. I wouldn't have necessarily, I didn't know anyone locally that did that. And I wouldn't have searched that because I really didn't know what I was looking for. I was looking more for inspiration. And then once I found it, it was like, oh, and here's a seller right here and they'll make it and they'll send it to you. All right. Next, we're going to talk about advertising online. And this is always a question that I get. How much should I spend on advertising? And really, when it comes to advertising, online is going to give you a big bang for your buck. So versus newspaper ads, yellow book ads, a lot of different other ways, you really do get a good bang for your buck online. So let's talk about this a little bit. 93% of all online interactions start with a search engine. And with those odds, you can catch the attention of an audience that want to go through online advertising. So when they're talking about a search engine, they're really, for the most part, we're talking about Google. Someone Googles something, and that's where they get to the page. or maybe on eBay, they're typing in their part that they're wanting. Very few people nowadays type in www.blank.com, which to our advantage makes your domain name a little bit less important as it used to be, just because most people start with Google. And so, for example, if I want to connect with Pete and I want to set up a phone call with him, well, I could go to www.native360.org. I could also Google Native 360 lending and I could get his number instantly, right? And so just remember that online advertising often comes from Google, from search engine. And there are ways to make an organic or a free way to get your name up there more, but there's also ways to pay for it. So let's talk about that a little bit. With digital ads, organic performance can benefit from. So you can increase your brand awareness by displaying your content to individuals outside of your networks. You can better understand your audiences by leveraging and targeting the analytics of the ads platform, and the creation of higher performing content by understanding what ad content helps you achieve your business goals and what doesn't. So really what we're talking about is creating an ad and learning where to send that ad. That's the first step. So you can either target, let's just talk about Facebook here for a minute. So let's say that we create a Facebook store and we create a Facebook ad. So we can either target people who are already following the store, and we can target the people who are following the store and their friends, or we can target a brand new demographic. So let's say let's think of a store that you like and you visit a few times a year. If that store sends you a special or a coupon or an advertisement, you already know them, you already trust them, but maybe they're not on your top of mind awareness. So it's like, oh yeah, I haven't been there for a while. So the advantage of targeting people who are already following you is that trust is already there, that relationship's already there, they're probably a past customer. All you're doing is kind of reminding them, hey, don't forget, you should swing by. We'd love to see you. So there is a big return on investment of that because they already know who you are. Now, by targeting that group and their friends, you're extending that just a little bit because you're getting some new customers, but you also know that it's in the same social group. So if I'm targeting my customers and their friends, typically our friends are very similar to us. And so if I'm shopping a certain kind of clothes, odds are my friends are also. Or if I'm eating at certain restaurants, odds are my friends are also. So that's one way to target, extend that just a little bit, but you're still going off of a group that you knows and loves you. So that is a very effective way to grow your market. Now, the third way is something completely different. And this is a way that's a little bit more trackable. So let's say that I live in Grand Island and we have Hastings just 25 miles down the road. And right now we don't really have any customers from Hastings. And so let's say that I want to target Hastings and I want to do a targeted campaign. I always recommend when you're targeting a place, creating an ad that is specific to that place. So maybe I create an ad that says, hey, Hastings marketing agency is closer than you think, just 25 miles away or something like that. So it's oddly specific to there. So then that's trackable because all of a sudden, if we start having 3 or 4 calls from Hastings, or if people are saying, hey, I saw your ad, I had no idea. And Grand Island's so close, I go there once a week. We know that ad worked and it's a little bit more trackable because that's a new demographic that we didn't have before. Now, there's kind of a famous saying that say, if you target no one, you're advertising to no one. And so I always would recommend coming up with some kind of a target market and doing it for a reason. If I just say I'm going to advertise this to everyone in Nebraska, then odds are you're not going to get the traction you want. So I'd recommend selecting an age group, selecting a gender, selecting a hobby that people are into, selecting a community, and then making something specific for them, because that's going to have a bigger results than just a general ad, right? And you can get more bang for the buck. The smaller your targeted area, the less money you're spending. So if I can target Hastings, I'm going to spend a lot less money than if I target Nebraska, and I can make a targeted ad specifically for them. So if you have, let's say, a coffee shop, you may want to figure out your radius. So maybe people are coming within a 45-mile radius as they're coming to do their shopping. That's what I'm going to want to target. I'm probably not going to target someone that's 4 hours away, because the odds of them coming to my coffee shop are pretty small unless they're traveling through for something else. And so, and if I think they may be in town for something else, maybe I want to target advertising over a convention that they might be in town for and not specifically the whole region. I know advertising could be a whole nother class on itself. So let's kind of keep rolling, but understand that a little bit from that. So tips for online advertising. With all marketing initiatives, first you will need to define your goal of your ads. Based on your goal, the digital platform you have chosen to use will guide your step-by-step for placing the ad. So again, these online platforms are there to help you. They understand that you are not an advertising expert. They understand that you're typically not using an agency. You're often doing these ads yourself. And so they are very good at taking you step by step. So typically the steps are, you'll name the campaign, you set an advertising goal, you'll choose what imagery you want, you'll choose a location, a budget, and stop and end dates. So anytime you're doing online advertising or advertising in general, this is a good checklist to go through. Now, before we get to the highlights, I do want to make a point that Facebook and other platforms have gotten more and more strict about the ads that go through. It used to be that as long as 30% or less of the photo didn't have text on it, you were pretty much good to go. Now there's a revision process for every ad, and that revision process can take anywhere from a couple hours to a couple days. And so I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but if you're doing an ad campaign, make sure that you allow time for that approval. So if I have an open house that's happening Friday at 5, I'm not going to want to put that advertisement out Friday morning, because let's say that approval process takes 24 hours, just because there's really no set time. It's just however long it takes. So let's say it takes 24 hours and now our ad doesn't get approved till Saturday morning and we miss the open house. Now, sometimes things get denied and we don't know why. Oftentimes with the political scene, if they feel like it has anything to do with politics, your ad might get denied. If it has something to do with healthcare, it might get denied. We do advertising for a fireworks stand, and this was the first year that it would not allow us to advertise fireworks because it's an explosive device. And so a couple years ago, we could advertise on Facebook for this fireworks stand, and this year we are not allowed to. And so just always have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, knowing that an ad might get denied and it may not tell you why. Generally, you'll get a response that just says, this ad did not fit our Facebook ad criteria and it has been denied. And sometimes it's frustrating because if it's something that is a perfectly fine ad, there's no rhyme to reason. Sometimes they'll let you rebuttal it, sometimes they won't. And so I just always recommend making sure that you have enough time and that you also have a plan B. So if for some reason your ad gets denied, you have another one ready to go. Has anyone ever had an ad get denied for something that they felt was very silly? We did some hiring ads for a school this year and they kept getting denied, and we're trying to hire for a school district. And again, we just kept getting this very generic message. And so again, I don't know what we were saying in there that went against their standards, but something between education and hiring and communication. And there was some combination of words that were in that ad that somehow set off there. It's typically a computer that's doing the review process, and they just kept getting denied. And so we had a plan B, and we went ahead and we launched stuff on LinkedIn and on a couple other platforms right away while we tried to work through that process. But if that would have been our only plan, it really would have delayed that hiring. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about social media advertising highlights. So social media ad revenue reached $41.5 billion in 2020, up nearly 30% in all internet ad revenue. So these are kind of the highlights for each platform. So Facebook leads the show when it comes to e-commerce. Facebook excels at lead generation. Now, one of the reasons that Facebook is great for leads is because people on Facebook tend to tag each other. So let's say that there's a child's dollhouse that comes out. I don't have any little girls anymore. My girls are all teenagers, but I might tag my sister who has a little girl. So Facebook has done a great job of letting you type someone's name in the comment so that they see it. And that's a great way to have a lead generation platform. Instagram is great at products that are visually appealing and tend to perform the best on Instagram. So again, this is going to be anything that looks pretty in a picture. And this also depends on if you like taking pictures, if you like getting that perfect angle, maybe you're doing something for fall, if you like putting a pumpkin behind it and getting low to the ground and getting that great angle, Instagram is going to be for you. If that is not your thing, Instagram is probably not going to be a great sales tool for you. And then Google offers the most variety in different campaign types. So if you're advertising on Google oftentimes when you're advertising on Google, those are those ads that come up on the side. So maybe you search for a pair of sandals and now on the side, you're having sandal ads come up and follow you for a couple weeks. So the one thing about Google, I know we haven't talked about it much, is that it offers a variety in different campaign types in video and searching and smart apps and local. They do geo-targeting, geo-fencing. So I would say Google is kind of that next step, maybe one more advanced step than Instagram and Facebook, but it gives you more options. So we ended just on time. We have about 10 minutes for questions, but before we get to questions, I want to recommend these are some of the resources that we use to put together these notes. Now, all of these resources come from the native360.org initiate page under small business resources. And so if this information was helpful for you, if you want to get more information on Facebook ads or Instagram ads, again, if you want to go more into Google ads, these links right on your PDF will take you directly to that page. So I would really recommend using that initiate tool and diving in deeper and learning more. Again, another great resource is just to Google, go to YouTube and watch videos on how to create an ad. I would just be very cautious of any time that you're looking for resources, make sure that the date is as current as possible. So if you're looking at how to place an ad on Facebook, make sure that you're not using a step-by-step that's from 2019, because that's probably not true anymore. Facebook, Instagram, Google, they are changing almost daily. And so just make sure that if you are looking for a step-by-step resource, make sure that it's as current as possible, just to alleviate any frustration of outdated information. All right, we have about 9 minutes. Is there any questions? Is there anything that you would like me to go over again or go over more in depth? Any general questions or advice? Are there any aha moments? Chris, I saw you unmuted.
I have a question, I guess. Let's say you have a business Facebook profile and it gets like duplicated or like a fake profile account.
Yeah.
Do you have any like tips or like strategies on how to like?
Yeah, like a hacked site or an imitation site.
Yeah.
So frustrating. It happens a lot more and more, and it's very frustrating because there is no clear way to get around that. That's happening more and more, and it's trending that like companies overseas are duplicating or creating fake profiles. My advice to you on that is just to be very transparent with your communication. If you still have access to your page, make sure that everyone kind of understands that it happens, and just being very upfront that just so you're aware, we feel like we've been hacked. Please don't accept, another invitation. And then just continue to put out as organic as content as you can on your page that you have access to. So put pictures of you, put pictures of your store, do a Facebook Live and walk around and show things so that if a page is duplicated or that there's a fake page out there, they're not going to be able to create that original content. They're going to have to use very generic content that's going to over time look fake. And so my advice to you would be, if you still have access to your page, make more of an effort to show people that this is you, this is your store, answer comments. And over time, those pages will look more and more different.
Hey, Julie, is there any way to lock so that people can't copy and paste pictures of you on Facebook?
There's really not. Once a picture goes online, it really is out there. And I mean, some things you can do by adding your logo to the corner, by adding a watermark can help that a little bit, but still people will crop that out or edit that out. And so, yeah, you just kind of have to know that as you put photos out there, they really are out there. Videos are a little bit harder to download and upload just because it's a little bit harder to edit a video. So if you have a video with your logo in it, it's harder to edit that out of a video than a photo. But yeah, that's the kind of tough thing when things are online, while it's not, while there are copyrights in place and things like that, it's hard to fight that on the forefront. And unfortunately, if something does get stolen or something does get hacked, we find Facebook is not very helpful. You can, submit forms, you can email them, but they don't have a great process to help you with that. There's not just a number you can call. And so it is an ongoing challenge. I really hope that they put some more efforts into place to, once you get a lot of followers, once like on Instagram, once you get, I believe, over like 100,000 or something like that, you become a certified site. So like celebrities and things like that, they have more of a certified. So there are, once you get to like that celebrity or that influencer level, but unfortunately for small businesses, there's not a lot yet. So we'll kind of keep you posted though. If we do, we'll do some more research on that and see if there's anything new. That's a great question. Are there any others? Is there anything that any of you are going to change or look into today after this call? I'd just like to reiterate one more time that when you start looking on online sales and people will tell you, oh, I wish you could do this. I wish, I would buy more if you had this set up, or if I could order online and come in and pick up my coffee, I would do it. And I would just really encourage you to remember that it's your business, it's your employees, it's your inventory. So just make sure that, yes, we want to make things as convenient as we can to our customers. And yes, ordering online, getting some online sales, that's exciting. But I just really want to encourage you, especially as a small business, to not feel pressured to make it convenient for everyone if that makes it hard or impossible or frustrating for you and your employees and the way that your business works. And there's always some kind of hybrid model. So maybe they can request an appointment online, but maybe they can't book it. So you still have that conversation. Or maybe they can inquire about something, but maybe you call them back to let them know how they can pick that up. So just know too that there are some hybrids. You don't need to become Amazon overnight. Amazon didn't get to where it is, overnight, and they have thousands and thousands of employees helping them out. So if someone comes to your small shop and they say, well, on Amazon, I get this, it's okay to kind of remind them, yeah, that's a great goal. We're working towards that. We'll keep you posted. That is a perfectly acceptable answer of, thanks for the suggestion. We'll look into that. Because if they say, hey, I would love to be able to order my coffee at my house, drive to your coffee shop, drive through the drive-through and have it handed to me. Okay, that's a great suggestion. We'll look into that. And that's an okay answer. And just know that at the end of the day, an online store has to work for you. It has to work for your business. It has to work for your inventory, for your employees. And just make sure that your online business isn't running you. If you're spending 50% of your time and it's taking 2% of your revenue, it may be worth relooking at that a little bit. But if you can make it work, and especially maybe even during a slow time, it's a great time to build that up and hopefully gain some extra revenue through online sales. All right. Well, I'm happy to stick on for any additional questions. And I hope you join us next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about business plans. And that's a topic that I feel like people always get a little bit nervous about. They tend to want to run when anytime a business plan talks up, but we're really going to talk through a process. And I really look at business plans as an 8-page report. So think back to English class, think back to college classes, whatever it is. If you can write 8 pages, even if it takes you 3 months, then you can write a very effective business plan. And Pete can really talk about the importance of it and when it's used and when it's not and things like that. But even if you just write the business plan for yourself, it's well worth every minute you put into it. And so rather than thinking, some business plans are 40 pages, 60 pages, 80 pages. Those are very in-depth companies. But for a small business, if you can write 8 pages, you can write an efficient business plan that can take your business to a whole nother level. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much. Jump on the initiate on the native360.org, and I will see you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock.